Hey everyone, how you doing? Welcome to the channel. I thought I'd go sci-fi for review day today and take a look at Dark Run by Mike Brooks. So I've really enjoyed the fantasy that I've read from Mike Brooks, the God King Chronicles, which you can see just over my shoulder. Beautiful looking books in these UK edition paperbacks that I've got, but I loved the story in it as well. It was really inventive, great writing, great characters. And when I found that he had a sci-fi trilogy, which was pretty much under the radar, I'd never heard of this. I thought it sounded pretty decent. Let's give it a whirl and see what it's all about. Now, I know Mike Brooks writes probably more than fantasy. He does write sci-fi for the Black Library, which is the literary world essentially of the Warhammer and Warhammer 40,000 in Mike's case certainly universe. And I've not read any of those. I've not read any Warhammer at all except for one short story. So I was very unfamiliar with his sci-fi writing and wanting to check it out. So Dark Run is about a ship called the Keiko and the crew of this ship, and they've got a job to do basically. They've got to deliver a package to an address on Earth at a specific time. It's very, very important that they get the timing absolutely right, not early, not late. So the set of instructions that they've got is very, very specific. Now it's called Dark Run because that's what they've got to do. The process of delivering it, of getting from where they are to Earth, and once they've delivered the package, getting off Earth, they've got to do all of that under the radar. They're not able to be picked up whatsoever by the authorities, who have a very tight net around Earth as one of the most secure planets in the system. So it's called Dark Run because it's kind of, I like to see it as almost a reverse heist. Rather than going in undetected, stealing an item and getting away, they're going in undetected to deliver an item and get away. So that was the plan, at least. And of course, as things do in these stories, the plan doesn't really go all that well, and they have to resort to their own wits and backup plans that they may have put in place to complete the job and to get away with their lives instead. Now, I really enjoyed this story. I had a great time reading it. The writing itself was absolutely great. There were no issues that I found with it. It was just really easy to read from start to finish, and I really enjoyed the characters that you had in it as well. The world building was not too detailed, other than the fact that we've got a far future and you've got various improvements, of course, in technology, and you've got settlements on different planets and different space stations, so it's not just a case of everyone on Earth. You've got those staples of far future sci-fi, but there isn't too much that we go into in terms of the detail of it and seeing why everything's different. And I don't think you need that here. So although I wouldn't say it was necessarily underdeveloped, we just don't explore it too much. Probably the main thing that you do have is augmentations that people have. So you have various groups of people, and it may be if they've had an amputation, for instance, they might have a mechanical arm, a mechanical leg. The main character has got a mechanical eye, for instance, and there's various levels of that as well. He's got a very cheap one, so it's very noticeable, whereas other people might have what looks like a glass eye because it's a very high-tech, sophisticated one. Those are kind of the main, most noticeable elements of the world building, I would say, here, outside of the different planets that people actually live on. So the two main things for me here are the story and the characters. And the story I thought it was a good story. It was a very linear one. There weren't too many little side plots or anything along those lines. We didn't go too far into the background of people and to see the history of them. One of the rules of this ship, the Keiko, is that you don't ask about somebody's past. If they want to tell you, that's fine, but you can't kind of push it. You can't ask them for that information. And I quite like that because it's kind of a new start for these people. It doesn't matter what they've done, it only matters what they do in the future. The characters, though, really do a good job here for me. I really enjoyed a couple of the main ones that are on the crew, but I would say my favourite was definitely the young slicer, Jenna, who she's basically the tech wizard, and it's called slicing, basically, because you slice your way into systems and you can get new idents for the ship and things like that to help, for instance, on these dark runs when you've got to rename the ship on everyone's systems. And I thought she was really good at her job and really grew into the role, because she was quite young and inexperienced at the start of the book, and she picks up a lot of experience in a short amount of time, so she's forced to grow and to develop into the role, really. One of the things I really do like in these books is a kick-ass heroine, and she kind of serves that role here, but it's a bit different because she's not a physical person, she's not a fighter. She fights basically with her brain and technical knowledge, and she does that with a lot of sass along the way, and it just works really well. I thought she was very well written and gave me some of my favourite scenes in the book, where she's kind of calling the ship down, saying, "I've opened the doors for you, get your ass down here now quickly, because I'm basically locked in a room and there's people trying to get in here to stop me, and I'm fighting to keep them out of the systems." And it gives for some really tense moments as well, and I love her personality coming through with that. The other characters I thought were pretty well developed as well. They're very diverse. You've got a great mix of different characters, and I thought they all worked well together. There wasn't really anyone who I didn't like, although there are some who you don't really get to know as much because they're, I guess, lesser characters, even though they're all part of the same crew. I very much got The Expanse vibe through this book. I felt like it was a very similar kind of level of technological advance. There are no aliens or anything along those lines. It's just humans and augmented humans, and that gives you a bit of difference. But you've got Earth plays a part in this. You've got references to parts of Earth that you will recognise because geography has remained as it is on Earth. So you do have countries and cities that are familiar to us today, and then you have some that will have changed as well. So instead of the USA, you've got the USNA. I can't remember, I don't think it's states, but it's United States of North America instead of just United States of America. I can't remember what the S is, but I'm sure it's not states. So you've got some small differences, and on the ship you've got people from all different parts of this. You've got a Maori, you've got a couple of Chinese, you've got a Dutch character, you've got a Mexican, so they're kind of a mishmash from all over the place, and it just gives the kind of, I guess, found family vibe that you get on the Rocinante from The Expanse. It feels very homely like that, and very friendly and familiar, and I definitely appreciated that, because it's definitely not an Expanse copy or anything like that. It's just, it gave me that sort of similar vibe. Overall, I thought it was a really fun book. The enjoyment factor was absolutely the highlight for me. I'll go through my weighted ratings in a minute, but the overall score is maybe a bit lower than the star rating that I gave, which is absolutely fine, and that's the way it works out sometimes with my weighted ratings. But I had such a great time with this. I'm looking forward to moving on to book 2 and book 3 in the series, and I gave it 4.5 stars for this opening book because it was just a blast. It was a thrill ride. It did take me a little while to get through. I think I read the first half of the book in about 3 weeks, because I had a very busy August and wasn't able to finish it as part of my August reading plan. And then when I did finish it, I literally read the second half of the book in just over half a day, because I had a bit of reading time and I got myself into it, and at that point I couldn't put it down, basically, because I was having such a good time. The second half of the book was an absolute thrill ride and just kept me going until I got to the last page. So really good book, definitely want to recommend for fans of sci-fi, and yeah, I'm looking forward to continuing and seeing what the next story is for the crew of the Keiko. So in terms of my weighted ratings then, for the enjoyment I gave 17, because I did have such a good time with it, even though it took me a little while to get into, well, not to get into, but a little while to get physically into the book, to start getting through it. I was invested from the start though, so there was no problem there. The world building, as I said, there wasn't too much that you saw in terms of the advances, and you did see a couple of little planetary systems and things like that, but there wasn't too much of it that was explored. That wasn't really the focus of this book, so I gave 15 out of 20 for world building. The characters, I said, there was a good mix. There were a couple of really great characters that I enjoyed quite a lot, and I gave this section 17 out of 20. And then the plot was 16 out of 20. As I say, it was quite linear, there weren't many offshoots of it. That wasn't really necessary because we had a very narrow focus in terms of the characters, and that extended therefore to the plot because you're only following a few different characters. I'm probably expecting that to expand out a little bit and to focus on some of the other characters a little bit more in the next book in the series and the third book in the series, but I don't know anything about those. I haven't even read the synopsis yet to see where they're expected to take us. For writing, I had no problems here. I really like Mike Brooks' writing style, and I gave this one 8 out of 10. The pacing was really nicely balanced. There was some really fast sections to it, especially that second half when everything's really heating up, and I gave this one 4 out of 5 because I just thought it was really nicely balanced and really built as you got into the story. And then the discretionary, I haven't really got much to base this one on. I don't really like there are 2 different covers. One is very basic, and the second one I don't really like too much. One that's more artwork based, and you can see the ship on it. I'm not sure which is the kind of current cover and which was the original that's been replaced, but I do like the more basic one because I don't really like the other one. But I had the ebook of this one. I didn't have any extras or anything like that, so nothing to really base a discretionary section on, so just 1 out of 5 for that one. That gives a total of 78% for Dark Run by Mike Brooks, which puts it at equal 119th in my Hall of Fame. So a really good sci-fi. Had a great time with it. I'm looking forward to continuing and seeing what else Mike Brooks has in store for us as I read on through this series. Let me know in the comments down below if you've heard of this book, if you've read it, or if it's one that you think that you might like to pick up and find out more for yourself. I'll hopefully see you in the next video sometime soon. Until then, as always, take care of yourselves, read some good books. Bye for now.